Okay. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to The Happy Meter, a podcast where two best friends who couldn't be more different come together to discuss life optimization strategies and personal finance. What are we really talking about? We're talking about the happy meter. This is a philosophy that my dear friend Justin Garritt came up with, and it's about determining what you love, your passions, your interests, and then finding a way to balance that with financial wellness. My name is Kevin Ford, and as always, I am joined by my co-host and best friend, Justin Garritt. Justin, how you doing today?
Hey, Kev. I'm just living the dream. I'm up here in upstate New York, quarantining here with my family and just trying to make the best out of the situation going on.
Yeah, we miss you down here in Baltimore. You know, I'm doing the same in our little row home down here.
Yeah.
Emptier place without you, my friend.
What have you been doing to keep busy?
I have to teach every day. So figuring out the remote teaching and the virtual stuff, corresponding with students and parents and colleagues, of course. And then outside of that, just exercising, keeping balanced, and the occasional virtual happy hour.
Well, tell me a little bit about this virtual happy hour.
We had one yesterday. Part of some of the gang in the neighborhood got together. One of our friends who's in banking, they have like the professional Zoom account. So us lay people were able to join with unlimited minutes and stuff, even though I don't really have the full account. And everyone made their own drink, and we ordered a couple games, and we just played digitally, remotely. Quiplash, quick plug. They don't sponsor us or anything, but Quiplash is a great game. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome. We've been doing a lot of things around the house. My dad is a big outdoors person, so we were outside splitting wood the last few days. I've been meeting with students during the daytime, and then I've been filling my early mornings and late afternoons with client meetings, specifically with all the financial turmoil going on. A lot of people reaching out for some assistance, and so it's been actually jam-packed full days. But sending all the love to our everyone, and specifically we have a lot of nursing friends out there that are on the front lines just working super hard so as many people can be healthy and safe as possible. So shout out to all of them.
To all the real heroes, the medical staff. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Kev, we have some amazingly exciting news though, despite what's going on around the world. And I've been waiting for this moment for a lot of years. So why don't you share out to the audience? Why don't you share out to the audience what's going on?
Well, after this most recent pay cycle this month, I can share and announce that I'm officially credit card debt free.
Yes. Like those high percent interest rates where they just slapping you down slowly and then you just picked back up, slapped it, and just kept moving forward, man.
Well, it took a lot of support and guidance from you. And it took also kind of a realization that there are some sensibilities that feel like wisdom that I was carrying with me from younger years or whatever, that turns out were slowing me down and paying that off.
What are some of those things you're talking about?
One thing is thinking that I was paying my cards off when really I was only paying slightly above minimum. So I wasn't really working into the interest, especially the really bad card that was like 32% interest, which should be criminal. Then there was also, for me, it was a reticence or reluctance to open up a zero balance transfer card because I thought it would ding my credit score.
Sure.
And I mean, I guess it does, but what am I using my credit for? I'm not using it for anything right now. I might as well use it to get out of debt. And so that was something that came with confidence that was imbued in me through your friendship and your support. And then lastly, it was I had to have a little bit of a come to Jesus with myself and start really paying it down, like you were saying. So a big chunk of my monthly budget just went to filling that hole.
You know, when we first started talking about this, Kevin, you fell in a common trap of a lot of people. You were thinking about your credit score or points over the math behind the amount of interest that you're paying. Yeah. And so a lot of people find like they get that slip and it says minimum balance required or how much minimum payment required. And they think that's what they have to contribute. And you can contribute that. You're not going to get a late fee. However, the interest is just going to keep turning over and over and over again. And you're just going to be stuck with this big hole. And you're going to need a heck of a shovel to get out of that hole unless you just go at it with large payments. And I remember the moment that you went and doubled your payments from I remember like $300 or $400. And then the last year you got super addicted to paying this off and you went at it with a huge shovel, like $800 a month. And now we're sitting here.
More than my rent.
Right. And now you're sitting here today and that weight and that anchor that has been slowing your wealth down is now clear and free. And we have so many amazing opportunities ahead with your money now. because you're not paying that out. So that's what makes me happy as your financial advisor.
Man. As you always said, I can finally pay myself first now. So I'm so excited.
Right. So Kev, last week we talked a lot about the happy meter in general. And so, we talked about how it's about creating an optimized life. And so if you really stop and you think about the decisions you make and what drives your happiness, are the decisions you're making daily with your spending and your time actually aligned to what moves you or what makes you happy? And last week we talked a lot about the list that moves us and drives us. And, everyone's list is different. And so over the past week, have you been able to think about any of those things that have moved you, and you made any thoughts or changes?
So I haven't made any changes to the list, but in terms of employing the philosophy this week, there are definitely a few spaces where I've done that. I will confess it's harder for me because we're under quarantine, and so much of my happy meter is moved by being with people, being out in the world, and that sort of thing.
You've been saving a lot of money, though. That is one positive thing that most people are sharing with me.
Yeah. But within the confines of this present circumstance, one thing that comes to mind is, like everyone else in America, I logged into Netflix, devoured Tiger King, did the whole thing. But I got tired of trashy TV. And I decided to leverage a gift card I've been sitting on for a long time to Apple. It's like my school, whenever you do something extra, they'll throw you an Amazon gift card or an Apple gift card. And I never use them. So I just was saving. But I was able to purchase season 1 of The Nick, which is one of my favorite shows I haven't seen in forever. And so that's a way to just kind of treat myself, but not use any credit or any cash to do it. I was able to defer to a gift card. And another one I think is when I need that socialization right now, as we already said, to be able to do a virtual happy hour with friends, to share resources. Right. Like it was another friend that had the professional Zoom account. It was another friend that had gotten access to Quiplash for us. And then on my humble little end, to be able to just make my own drinks. I try to support a local restaurant once a week to help them during this time. Yep. But the reality is I don't need to be throwing money away on a happy hour every single day at an exorbitant rate. I've got my Safeway Club soda branded. It's this watermelon strawberry you're going to love at some point with a little bit of Tito's, and I'm right as rain.
I don't make my way to Safeway often. I have my Aldi's grapefruit and lime club sodas that are about half the price you're spending on your Safeway stuff, though.
At least it was Safeway brand, though. So, I don't need any of that Buble or any of that other stuff.
So talk about like sharing resources. We have a really good friend who hosts trivia, and we're really excited about tomorrow that we have a friend that is going to be able to do that for all our friends electronically on Zoom. And so that's another one of those times where just trying to make the best out of the situation. And it should be a lot of fun to connect with our friends that way. Absolutely. One thing for me this week is, again, I'm up home with my family in New York, and we were deciding for dinner yesterday what we were going to do. We were really feeling pizza. And so we were thinking to ourselves, should we go out and grab a pizza? Or my mom suggested, hey, we actually have the supplies here at the house. Why don't we do that? Not only are we going to save money, it's also a healthier option. It's also, with the current stuff going on, it's the safest thing to do right now. And so we all gathered around the island and cooked pizza yesterday. And it was something that was a lot of fun. We didn't spend any money. And it was a memory, that we'll have. So those are just small things that really could add up and compound.
Yeah. So much of happiness meter stuff for you and me, but I think probably for everyone, is finding an experience that will be a true memory. Sure. Like when you're just throwing money away on something that isn't significant enough to recall, I don't think it's moving your needle at all. But when you invest in something that will linger with you forever, like making pizza with your family in this strange time, that's much better. I got to ask, what kind of pizza did you make?
Oh, we made a meat lovers pizza with some sausage and some bacon. My dad makes a homemade sausage that was really good. And then they were arguing about whether to put onions and garlic on top as well. And of course that went out. Yeah. So it was really good. We had a nice meal.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So today's topic, we're going to be moving on to what happens when we use the happy meter and we lower our expenses. What should we do, and what will that mean for our life? And so today we're going to talk about savings and compounding. And so I want to just start off with the difference between just basic savings and compounding. So let's say, Kev, you you're now going to have some money that you're going to be able to save. So let's just say you have $1,000. And let's say that $1,000 earns 10% a year. Okay. That $1,000 at the end of the year is $100. Now, the majority of people think that every year that $100 just gets added on. So year 2, you'd have 1,000 plus now 200. Year 3, you'd have 1,000 plus the 300, and it would add up. And that amount at the end of 10 years would be $2,000. That's the majority of people think based on savings. However, the magic of compounding works very differently than that. And how wealthy people end up being wealthy oftentimes is they use this secret formula that's called the magic of compounding. And what that means is that $1,000 that we originally started with, if we earn 10% on that, yes, that's $100. So that year is the same. However, what people don't understand is oftentimes is that next year, you don't just take the original $1,000 and take 10%. You now have this new amount. You have 1,000 and 100 being now compounded at a rate of 10%, which is now 1,210. Then at the end of year 3, you take that new 1,210, you take 10% of that, and now we have our new amount. And that amount is what ends up being billed. So it's not just the savings that increases, it's your new amount that now gets compounded that makes this amount explode. So let's just talk about big amounts here. So if I have $1,000 and I save and I make 10% a year, at the end of 10 years, instead of that being $2,000, like most people think, that amount actually is around $2,593. Now we compound that out for 20 years. And that same $1,000 savings in 20 years is now $6,726. We compound that out 30 years. Now we're talking about $17,449. And so the magic of compounding, it's not this one amount that just keeps growing each time. It's every year. The new sum is what gets compounded. So later on, when you've got big bucks, that amount is being compounded at 10%. And that's where this wealth grows. You know, a quote I was like this to look at is Warren Buffett made most of his money in his last 5 or 10 years now, not his first 50 or 60 years. Right? His big wealth now accumulates because that percent is growing on that big amount. And I think that's what the power of compounding is.
Nice. So it sounds like that first thing that you were talking about, the way that most people, myself included, right, the people that aren't so good at math, the way they think, the first is saving in almost like a piggy bank style, where you're just putting an amount in, and it just adds on itself. Yep. And it sounds like when you're talking about compounding interest, it's that old expression, making your money work for you. Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And, you know, when we go back to our happy meter and we make those small decisions that don't move us, and we take that money and we make it work for us, and we see that money compound, that's how people get wealthy. And that's the secret here. And when you look at the majority of people in America that have a lot of our larger net wealths, they have used this formula where they've just saved over time, over and over and over again. And it's compounded to make them very wealthy.
And this is money that, for those of us listening that want to make a move in this direction, this is money that we have to set aside and never touch, right? You just let it build constantly. Do you have any advice for how to separate out some amount of money from your budget as opposed to, say, your day-to-day spending or your bill spending and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So the foundation of your roadmap to financial success is to have a budget. And what a budget does is it assigns your dollars to your purpose. The majority of people let money dictate their life when it's the other way around. You know how much you've made per month, and you assign that to what moves you. Right? So you've got things you have to pay for, and then you things that you have options to pay for. And when you assign that amount of money, then you'll have a leftover amount, hopefully, and that leftover amount is what you want to have automatically being contributed to certain accounts. And that's what I work with clients on a lot.
Very nice. Awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to just look at some examples, Kevin, of what we talked about last week in savings in our own lives and what those amounts could possibly mean for our future. So before I just say anything, one thing that I do want to make sure I say is the average S&P index return, which is kind of the gauge of what the majority of financial advisors use as an average return over the past 90 years is roughly, it's 9.8%. For most financial professionals, they use 7% as a good gauge of average return. So we're going to use 7% here as our returns. There are many years that are higher. There are many years that are lower. But if we look at a big snapshot of a long period of time, 7% is a good safe amount to use. Okay.
Okay.
So let's talk about a few things we talked about last week. So if you save $100 in going out per month, and every single month you put that savings of $100 from your budget into the separate account and invest it, and it makes 7% in 10 years, that amount could mean $17,409. Take that to 30 years, right? And that's just saving again, $100 on something maybe that wasn't important for you, right? That didn't move your happy meter. In 30 years, that $100 savings that you make every month could mean $122,708.
Wow.
And so when we talk just about the magic of compounding, when we think about what drives us, what moves us, and we can take a few of those wasteful items that aren't moving us and just make small adjustments to our life many years down the road could look much different.
Absolutely. That's and thinking about how it starts with something as small as $100. That's definitely doable for, especially when you're first applying the happy meter and realizing how much of your spending choices weren't driven by intentionality. Finding $100 in that budget is pretty doable.
Yeah, I mean, just remember when we were looking at your budget, and a few years ago, Kevin, and we ended up finding a few $100s that were kind of being washed away in different areas that weren't moving you. And again, we just talked about 100. Think about if you save $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 extra a month that wasn't going to somewhere that wasn't driving your happiness, and what that could mean for larger scale purchases later on in life. So another big thing I always see when I work with people is, and America loves having nice cars, right? That's just like one thing people seem to love to do. And when you sit down and write the list of happiness for most people, riding in a fancy car is not on it, right? I actually haven't had a single client ever write that down. And so when we think about, is that money, a car is a very expensive purchase, right? Is that money that's going towards a new car versus a used car, which is a significant difference. If you took that money that didn't move you, that didn't make you happy, and you invested that over time and watched the compound, again, that one decision could totally transform your life as well. So if we look at some numbers, let's say you hold off on buying a new car and you buy a used car and you save, let's say $10,000 in the difference between those two. All right. In 30 years, that amount there would be $82,000 in savings. That's one choice. And so again, when we're talking about putting off things that maybe don't drive us, that don't move the happy meter, and if we invest those over time, that's the magic. That's the magic of compounding.
Yeah. And on that one, you're saying it's the one lump sum of $10,000 that you're not using on a car anymore,
and never touching it,
and just put it in with no additions over time.
Correct. Just one amount. Yep.
Awesome.
And some other examples that I often see when I work with people. One is negotiating for raises. The most common piece that I see is there's oftentimes where you might be able to, depending on your job, might be able to either earn an extra few dollars or ask your boss for a raise. So just as simple as if you earn $1,000 more a year, in 40 years, that's an extra $19K. And again, those things add up to mean big, big, big amounts. And then I think one of my favorite examples that has made a difference for my life, when I was 21, I started what's called a Roth IRA, which is a retirement savings vehicle we're going to be talking about in a few episodes down the road. And I started putting the maximum amount that I'm allowed to put in that account. And at that time, I think it was $5,000, and now it's $6,000. And so I put $500 a year in all of that time. And now I'm 30 years old, and that amount being compounded over time my account is worth over $75,000 right now. And that's just me making a decision on putting a few $100s a month into this retirement account. And now 9 years later, I've got $75,000 there, and I'm 30. And what that's going to mean when I continue to contribute for now the next 20, 30, or 40 years, I'll definitely be a millionaire in just one of those, in just that one account. And so compounding is magical, and it really can move your life. And I'm not pushing anybody to drastically change their life or sacrifice so much. I'm asking people to use the happy meter and make a decision like, hey, what's not moving me? Can I save a little bit here? And doing that, my life could transform, because that amount could build over time. And that's when you have money working for you, that's when wealth starts to happen.
Yeah. Two areas just for myself as a teacher where I see that this is doable. Myself, other teachers, and I imagine nurses and some of those other professionals that you work with, we don't really get a chance to negotiate raises per se, because we're working in nonprofit sectors to benefit other people. But we get things like cost of living adjustment. You get the occasional bump as you move up in responsibility and that sort of thing. And if you're living with a budget rooted in happiness meter right now, and suddenly you have this extra money, but you've already aligned your spending to match your lifestyle, then absolutely you can start investing that $1,000 a year, like you said, after promotion. And then for me and for so many others who are getting out of debt, I'm out of debt now, and I had to realign my budget and my life, but I still think I'm living a very happy lifestyle, just a little more intentionally. And like you said, I have $800 now I get to play with a month. And I can't wait to see what we do with that. Even only a portion of that invested over time could be really meaningful.
Well, let's actually talk about that, because, now that we're at that stage, we're going to be having our financial meeting soon, Kevin's, and we're going to be running these numbers. So let's just do it for the audience here about possibilities for your life and what might look differently. So let's just say we take that $300 and we reroute it. And so again, and now instead of paying the big banks and Mr. Chase and Mr. JP Morgan and all these companies, now, Kevin, you're going to start being able to pay yourself. So let's just run the math.
I should take just 300 from the 800, or are we going to take the full 800?
We're going to do the full $800 to start here. Okay. And then we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just say we take the $800, we reroute it, and we take that $800 and we dump it into an investment account. Okay. Just for basic, simple math here, in 10 years, that $800 can compound to over $138,000. Wow. That's just taking the $800 and that you were throwing towards the banks, and now you're investing it in yourself and watching the magic compound happen. $139,000. 30 years now, $981,000. You're almost a millionaire.
Wow.
And so 40 years from now, over $2 million.
Wow.
Kevin, this is on a teacher's salary. And that's just making small changes and rerouting what money was originally going towards debt. And think about how your life could be different by these small changes being invested over time. It really is remarkable. And that's where the magic is here.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that I'm able to get started on this. Compared to you, I feel like I'm maybe starting a little bit late. We're not all 21 with a Roth IRA, but
Kevin, everybody works at their own pace. And I think that's really important here. I have some people I work with who are 50s or 60s that want to make a change and start investing then. It's never too late. And what's funny is I just met with somebody who's 24 and they were like, I wish I started this at 21. Now you're at 30. I wish I started this then. Like, everybody wishes they started something earlier. But the point is a tree takes a while to grow. And no matter how old you are, where you are on the spectrum here, making a change now is better than tomorrow. And so, I really encourage people, if you have, is to use that happiness meter and shrink those expenses so that we have this extra money that can go towards what really drives wealth and when money builds for you. And a few things, Kevin, you talked about, like extra savings specifically for teachers or nurses or police officers or firefighters. Like when we're talking about cost of living raises, which are normal in that profession, if we continue to live the way we do and we take every extra dollar that comes in as a raise and we throw it in these accounts, that little bit of money could add up to be big amounts. Also for teachers, there's a lot of coaching opportunities to make a few extra $1,000 a year. I know 1 year, Kevin, you directed the school play. I know I coach sports at my school. Other things, summer jobs. You work extremely hard over the summer. A lot of people think, teachers have their summer off, which some people take it, but you decide you're going to pick up extra money. And not only do you help more kids and push more kids, but you also make a few extra dollars. And that really helped your debt, the last year or two as well. And now this year, how wonderful is it going to feel to put that extra few $1,000s into an investment account and watch that just compound and grow?
I cannot wait, sir.
Yeah. And then also like right now, nurses who are working so hard, um, oftentimes in the nursing field and also in the police departments, that overtime is an opportunity for people to be able to make a few extra dollars, pay off their debt, and then watch their money compound. So just a lot of different opportunities that people can, make an extra few dollars that could really magically compound for them later on in life.
Absolutely. So I am lucky that you just ran through some of what my numbers would look like for me personally. Do you have any tools or anything that our listeners can use so they can start looking at what their future could be?
Sure. So real simply, if you Google compounding interest calculator, then there's going to be a lot of them that come up, and you can play with a lot of those there. And so most calculators have a few different functions. They put one is what you start with. So if like right now we talked about the $10,000 car savings, that would go in that box because it's not an ongoing expense, right? Or ongoing contribution versus the next line down is typically how much you're putting in per month or per year. Then underneath that is your percent gains that you're making. And again, I like to use a good safe amount, which is 7%. Some years are much higher, some years are much lower, but 7% will give you a good average about returns. And so play with some numbers on there. And I know for me, that really helps motivate me as far as some savings. Like again, let's say I don't go out to eat. Like the other day, we didn't spend $50 on a few pizzas and wings. That $50 now is not going to be a part of my expenses for the month. And now that $50 is going to be able to be dumped into an investment account and where magic starts to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So much of that, like the idea of seeing the numbers and that becomes itself a motivation.
Right.
It reminds me once again of just being mindful of looking at it and thinking critically. And then this all connects to real life as well.
Yep.
Like there are real experiences. Like, do you have an example, Justin, in your own life of seeing a kind of compounding effort?
Yeah, so I agree, Kevin. I think compounding is not just about money. It's about life choices. And when you make one or two life choices and it kind of becomes who you are, then we add another life choice and another life choice. And slowly these decisions build up. And so one thing I'm really proud of is every year for my New Year's resolutions, when I start one, I usually actually been really successful at that becoming something that's important to me and sticks with me. So when I think about in 2016, my New Year's resolution, and I just looked at, I have an Excel sheet that keeps track of these. And yeah, sorry, Kev, I'm a loser.
That's awesome.
In 2016, I had a promise to myself that I was going to get up at 5 a.m. and run 4 days a week. And, you live with me and you always hear the door open at 5:01 or 5:15 to be out no matter the temperature, no matter the rain. And now it's 2000. Yeah, and now it's 2020, and I don't know if I've missed a week. And so that has, and again, in 2016, just became a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And then
now it's 2020. What time did you wake up today?
4:35.
Woo!
Yeah. So right, but that's not for everybody. That's just something that I found value in because I know I'm a morning person and not an evening person. So why would I not maximize the best time that I learn and thrive and exercise? And so that again was one small change in 2016 that now has compounded to become who I am. Then in 2017, I made a promise to myself that I was going to travel once a month to somewhere new. And that is another thing that, as you know, that has become a kind of a part of who I am. And I've been doing that now for 3 or 4 years. And I hope that continues. And then in 2018, I found yoga, and every week I go to yoga now. And then in 2019, I decided that I was for lunch during school time, I was going to make a salad every single day. It was going to save money on what I was spending before. And also it was going to be a healthier choice. And so now those 4 New Year's resolutions have now just compounded to become who I am. And I think a better person because of it. And it's the same type of theory where one small change over and over and over again can build. And whether it's money or time or your life, like, that building can make you happier and a better person.
Yeah, the New Year's resolution is always a good place to start. I know I shared with you, but mine this year had to do with recognizing that something I love in my life that was always a driving factor, which is reading. And I'm reading for pleasure and reading critically and for mental stimulation. That at some point I got away from it for myself. Sure. And I think some of that's the fact that I'm an English teacher, so I'm constantly teaching literature and writing and annotation to students. But at some point in the last 9 years, I stopped reading for myself, and I was just reading the same 15 or however many books I teach a year over and over and over again. And so this year, my New Year's resolution was to read at least one book a month, which for any fellow English majors out there, I know isn't even that much. Like when we were English majors, we're reading like 5 books at a time. But as a starting point, that seemed good. And, I've already read, I got my tracker up on my wall over here too. Another thing I learned from you. But I've already finished 5 books and I'm on to my 6th now in only, 3 months. So it feels really good to be back, and it's easy again. And I look forward to it, going up on the deck and just reading on a beautiful spring day. The only other space that I was thinking about just now, because you were mentioning the calculator and seeing the numbers and how that helps keep you honest. A huge part of my life, like so many others out there, has been like weight loss and trying to be healthier. And there are 2 big numbers that have been motivating for me. One is, and this is like cliche common advice now, but one is tracking calories and being honest with yourself and reporting that to yourself. And once you start doing that, you start realizing that there are some foods out there you really like that just aren't worth it because it'll destroy your efforts, and realizing, happy meter, that your real investment is over here in losing weight, getting healthier, feeling better, feeling fitter.
I never made that connection between, it's the same exact thing. Compounding calories and compounding money is almost identical. I love that example.
And to be honest, the biggest one for me this is like years ago, but like Cheesecake Factory, I'm not even talking about the cheesecake. They have this cashew chicken that is remarkably good, but it's something like 1,300 calories. That's more than I eat in a day for one meal. And so recognizing like, that's not where I want to spend that. And then conversely, you find that there are meals you love, especially if you're cooking it yourself, that are coming in way low, and you're able to think, wow, I created this. It's healthy, it's nourishing, it tastes good, and it's a better investment in calories. And then the only other thing is, like you said, compounding, to actually start exercising and to feel how difficult it is at first, but it gets a little easier. You go a little farther, you move a little faster, you lift a little better, and then over time it compounds to fitness, to health, to all of those other kinds of things.
Right. Well, it's amazing how food and exercise and deciding whether to eat out and calorie counting, all this is this one package. And as it's not always perfect, but as all those things kind of combine and there's improvements made, it's amazing what happens to your mind, your confidence, your want to get up in the morning, how good you feel. And so it's all those things just building and compounding. And I know we've seen that. We've been on together a road, like most people in America, of that together. So very interesting.
Having a goal and being honest with yourself as you take steps towards it.
Right. And Kevin, have you kind of made this goal and gone on a nice long trek and then sometimes diverted? Because I know for me, that has happened many times where I have a goal savings of so much per month, but something comes up in my life. I'm not able to make that 1 or 2 months of contributions to where I'm going. And the same thing I know with different goals, like either it's yoga or something where I have a goal that I'm going to go on Tuesday and Friday this week, and things in life came up where I just honestly didn't feel like it. And I didn't have the motivation that time. Have you had that experience where you've been in kind of go down a rut and had to really jump through it?
Absolutely. Especially with things like weight loss. I'm proud to be able to say I was able to knock off a significant amount of weight that I've never gotten back. But there's that sort of extra that has gone back and forth for me, a swing of about 15 pounds. So there's that financial realm of like getting out of debt and that sort of thing. Once I made the commitment, I'm proud to say that it's been consistent. But there have been months when I've been able to, in addition, build some savings a little bit. And there have been months where I actually have to utilize that savings to continue to make my debt priority. So it's almost like that secondary goal has been very inconsistent because, like you said, there are times when I'm striving and my finances are lean and clean. And there are other times, like around Christmas, where I'm spending significantly more that I maybe hadn't budgeted for very well, and I have to rely on those reserves.
Right. And even, this same thing of this compounding theory really applies to so many things in life. Like I remember in 2015 when I started to have the feeling that I wanted to go into the financial industry. And I remember I picked up one book at the library, and it was called So You Want to Become a Financial Advisor. And I read the book and took notes. And I then reached out to one person that was listed in there who gave me contacts to this person, who then led me to finding that there were a few teacher financial advisors who work full-time and work with clients as a financial advisor. I connected with them and they sent me to this and sent me to this. Then I enrolled in Boston University and got my certification. And, in September, I opened Garritt Financial Solutions. So it was this constant compounding of knowledge and networking and all of these things that kind of built to now being able to work with, clients every day and helping them experience this feeling of success with money and be able to really set them up on an awesome trajectory and future with their money. And so that's just another cool example for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
As we come to the end of our time here, Justin, I know that we want to try to end every episode with a couple of saving hacks. Do you have any advice for our audience?
Sure. So number one, we talked a little bit about budgeting here. We're going to have an episode solely on budgeting down the road, but one of my favorite tools, there's a lot of them out there on the computer, is Every Dollar app. And it's actually Dave Ramsey's, who's a financial guru on the radio. He offers this product totally for free for people. And it's again called Every Dollar app. And one thing I love about it is the theory behind it is that it's called the zero-based dollar budgeting app. So you start with how much you make and you subtract from the bottom. And I really find that app to be not only free, it's great. It allows people to go in and track their expenses, and it's simple and clear. And so for those of you just starting out on this journey, you need to have a budget. It's the roadmap to success. It allows you to assign dollars to what matters to you. And this is one of my favorite apps. And a few of my clients love using this app. The second thing is saving automatically, setting up automatic contributions to meet your goals before your hands get on it and can maneuver it in ways that are not in your best interest. So once you make your budget, you should know exactly how much money per month you have extra. That amount there, saved and contributed automatically. Get it out of your hands, move it directly from your paycheck or your bank statement and move it to a separate fund. And that's the power and the magic that could happen. And then finally, anytime you get a raise or you get a promotion, treat yourself to something you want, but then take that extra money. Don't change your lifestyle. Take that money and throw it to these investments, and you can watch the compounding happen as well.
All right, Justin, and for any new listeners that want to hear the rest of our episodes and hear even more of these amazing savings hacks, where can they find us?
Yeah, so you can look on our website, which is at Garritt, Garritt, financialsolutions.com. You can also type in Garritt Financial Solutions on Facebook, and you can like us. And again, we would love to hear what type of topics you may want us to bring up in the future. And we really appreciate the support and joining this journey with us.
Absolutely. Justin, as always, thanks for your time. Please stay healthy and safe up there in New York with your family.
You as well. And to everybody listening, please stay safe. And we hope you'll tune in to us again in the future.
Okay. Talk to you in a week. See ya.
All right. See you, Kev.